Okay guys, we are ready to move on to the next step in our Picasso-inspired Cubist sculpture. So we have the example I've started here. It's still not finished because I need to add some color to it. But we are going to move on to the last actual step of forming the sculpture before we actually add any color to it. So at this point in the assignment, you've completed the chart. You should have completed the face and profile, meaning to the side. Remember, it should be done on front and back. You should have completed the forward-looking face. So again, front and back. And today what we're going to do is we're going to make this little pedestal or support that holds up our sculpture. Now, as you can see, this is just a very basic support. It is just a rectangular shape that supports our sculpture as it stands. And you can look down into it and see that it's open at the top, and it's just very easy and very basic. All right, so let's go ahead and set some of these things aside, and let's talk about the materials you're going to need for this assignment. So for this assignment, you are going to need a clean sheet of white paper in your visual journal, potentially an eraser. You may not, but it's always nice to have one on hand. A pencil, a ruler, and a pair of scissors. Okay, so gather those materials and we'll start on the next step. Okay, so now that you have your materials, what I want you to do with those scissors is find a clean sheet of paper in your visual journal, open it up, take your scissors, and you are going to cut very neatly along this dotted line that we have that's created with the wire and the holes in the page. So you're going to cut right along the edge there, very neatly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and set this aside. We're done with that for now. So the edges will be pretty even, but you'll notice this one's a little bit bumpier. So what you're going to do is this is going to be the top of the pedestal or stand that we're using for our sculpture. And this smooth, clean line is going to be the bottom so that this stands nice and even and doesn't tip around, okay? All right, so the next step that we're going to do is we're going to be doing some measurements. So you got to grab your ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So get your paper set up like this with your dotted line across the top, smooth line across the bottom, okay? And I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, so I've zoomed in nice and close for you so that you can look at the measurements. So our sheet of paper is 8 inches across, and I have my ruler lined up just below those dotted or the edges that's a little bit perforated, has the little indentations in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark every 2 inches. So we'll be marking at 2. And I do want you to be fairly precise with your measurements. We're going to mark at 4. And we are going to mark at 6. Now remember that you can pause this as you're working with me, and you can also re-watch any of it that you need to. So make sure that you're doing that to help yourself out. Okay, so I'm gonna scoot my paper up a little bit higher, and I'm going to bring my ruler down, and I'm going to be very careful and precise with my measurements. And I've got this lined up now. I'm gonna move it up a little bit higher so you can see the measurements as I'm doing it on the white paper. Okay, so I am marking at 2 inches, and that is the line directly behind the number 2 on my ruler. Some rulers are set up a little bit differently. Maybe the line is right on the 2 on yours, but on mine, it's right behind the number. I'm gonna mark at 4. I'm gonna mark at 6. Okay, pretty easy. Now what we're going to do, using our ruler, we're gonna line up those 2 points, top and bottom, with our ruler. and we're going to draw a line connecting them. We're going to do the same thing with the next set. And we'll do the same thing with the final set. Okay. Now, I want you to write the word top very lightly right across here so that you remember this is the top. And we're going to write bottom down here. Again, very lightly. Okay. Now, this is essentially it for making the base. We're not going to go too much further with the base today. What we will be doing, if you want to do this now, you can to help get some ideas, is you're going to take a ruler and hold it along the line. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit to show you this, okay? Just give me 2 seconds to zoom out. Okay, so I've zoomed out, and what I've done is I've taken my ruler and I've put it directly along this line that I've drawn, holding this very firmly in place. So press down really firmly. I am folding my paper up right along that line. Okay, so you can see that there is a crease now right along that line I drew. I'm going to do the same thing on each of these lines. So I'm lining it up, holding my ruler very firmly in place. If you're at home and you want to get somebody to help you hold this in place, that might be helpful to you if you have trouble. You're going to fold this up, right along that edge, okay? So that's helping us to get these nice, clean folds. And then I'm just folding that back and forth like that, okay? I have one more to do. You can see it's already starting to form that rectangular shape. So I'm going to go ahead here. And on this one, just because for me it works better this way, I'm going to put the ruler on this side, press it down firmly, and then fold the paper up along that edge. Okay. All right, so we can open this up now, and what we should be able to do is form a square at the top and a rectangular support for this, okay? So it looks like this. If you're looking at it from the top, if you're laying it flat, it looks like this. Now we're not going to tape this together yet, so please don't do that. This is going to be the inside of the support so that we don't see any of this writing. So we can write in here to remind ourselves inside. So this is the inside of the support or pedestal for our sculpture. So now what you can do is if you want to go in and add in some details, let's say you want to break this up a little bit or add a little bit of interest to it. If you go in and, look at those Picasso paintings and you look at the sculptures, if you see anything that you might want to include to make it more interesting, you can go ahead and begin sketching that in. So maybe I'm just going to add a couple of diagonal lines just in this section. And maybe in one section there's some marks coming down. Maybe there's a line coming down one of them, just to break it up a little bit and add a little bit of interest to the base. So you can see that in this one the base has been left alone at this point, but I probably will go in and add in just a few details. Something very simple like I'm doing here, just maybe some lines. Maybe there'll be like a half circle or something like that on there. It's really up to you. Maybe you want to add, a line down here. It's really up to you. I think I'm going to stick with less is more on the base, so I'm not going to do probably too much to my base, but I am adding a few details in just to add a little bit of interest to it, okay? That's it for this. Of course, once you're happy with this, you're going to trace over it with Sharpie, just like we did on the top of our sculpture. And then we're going to come back and we're going to start talking about how you should be painting these, okay? Go ahead and show you what it looked like once I finished the design and put the Sharpie on top of it. So I personally stuck with very simple lines, horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines for my base, just a few. And then when I will eventually connect the sides, you'll see that each piece is very simple, just a little bit of design in each section, and some of my sections do connect. So that's something for you to think about as you're working on your design. So I'll show you what it looks like from on the angle or on the turned on its side like this. Okay, so there you go. Simple design, and I'm going to set this aside and we're going to move on to the next step in the next video.